Welcome back, everyone. So today we're going to take a look at the Danny Masterson case and the allegations that have been levied against him. And we have a lot to go through, so let's jump right into it. And thank you for joining me today. So, Danny Masterson, actor and former musician, is currently looking at 4 charges of rape, with the allegations also that he used intimidation or threats against the victims, which is an enhancement on the actual rape allegation in California. He is currently out on $3.3 million bond. There are a total of 4 allegations, but they only brought 3 actual charges of rape. The allegations are from 2001 and through 2003. A civil suit had been filed, and the judge has already ruled that the civil suit has a arbitration, a part to it, and that each of the victims who want to sue him civilly and along with sue the Church of Scientology must go through the arbitration agreement that they are already bound to, and that he is bound to that. He can't step out of it. They can't step out of it. The DA with the Special Sex Crimes Division, Reinhold Mueller, is prosecuting this case. And there's some very interesting things that we're going to get into here about statute of limitations on this case. And if they can if the state of California and special sex crime investigator Reinhold Mueller even has the ability to, in the state of California, has the ability to even charge Danny Masterson with these crimes. He is looking at, if convicted and given the maximum sentence on all charges that he has levied against him right now, he is looking at a total of 45 years in prison. Now, a little bit of back history on Danny Masterson. Who is he and why do we care? Well, it's up to you if you care. But Danny Masterson is an actor. He started acting at the age of 4. At the age of 5, he was already doing print ads for magazines and newspapers, along with television ads for major companies like Kellogg Frosted Flakes. He did Reese's Pieces commercials. He did commercials for a lot of print and advertising out there. At the age of 4, and by the age of 5, he was doing full-on commercials. So he had been an actor for an awfully long time. We also know Danny Masterson from That 70's show. On That 70's show, through the entire run of it, he played Hyde, the character actor on the show, who was good friends with Foreman and the rest of the group. So he was a major part of that show back in the early 2000s. And since that 70's show wrapped up and ended, he was on the comedy, I guess comedy drama, as you might call it, called The Ranch. And he's also done a couple bit parts here and there in movies, and he was also in a couple of other deals. On top of all that, Danny Masterson, as a hobby, started off becoming, he became a DJ, playing music for events and and became actually really popular at, with his side hobby of being a DJ. And he was actually well sought out for weddings and large, events for major industries, get-togethers, and award shows. He was really good at it, and he went by the name of DJ Punch and then he changed his name to a couple of different versions of that. Donkey Punch, DJ Donkey Punch, and DJ Punch Punch. He had four different variations of the same name. So the allegations of rape, we're going to jump right into this. And like I said earlier, they stem from 2001 to 2003. There are 3 women who never made any initial allegations against Danny Masterson or the church or anyone at all when the events actually took place back in 2001 and 2003. They came forward later on, and each and every one of the cases was investigated, and the DA and the Sheriff's Department decided there wasn't enough to support the allegations of rape and rape with intimidation. There wasn't enough evidence there. It basically came down to, one person versus another person. And you have to put in context, though, that these allegations all came, and started back when he was at the height of his popularity and everything with that 70's show. But going back to the allegations themselves, so they came out and they were investigated, and they had decided not to prosecute them or go forward with charges. They just kind of went away until 2017. In 2017, an ex-girlfriend of Danny Masterson's filed a civil case against him, seeking punitive damages, along with damages, saying that he promised her so much, and he was rebuffing on those promises. When she came out with those allegations, every one of these victims filed civil suit, along with Danny, and then went to the police again. And the police went to investigate the claims again from 2001 and 2003. So they, again, get this, the timeline correct. His ex-girlfriend files a civil suit. She doesn't file criminal charges. She files a civil suit. The victims from 2001 and 2003 join with her, and file civil suits themselves, seeking punitive damages and damages, for what happened to them. Okay, and the burden of proof, you need to understand also, the burden of proof in a civil case is far less than it would be for a criminal case. Maybe they didn't necessarily understand that a criminal investigation would be started, but it certainly was thereafter. The police started the investigation, and they decided that 3 of the cases out of the 4 allegations that were out there from 2001, 2003, had enough merit to move forward with criminal charges against Danny Masterson. Now, again, these are victims of a crime, a horrific crime. And if these things really truly happened, they should be compensated for what they happened. And Danny, Masterson should be locked away forever for what he did. But we have to keep in context, though, the legal laws and the laws of the land that are out there in the state of California for allegations of rape, and rape with intimidation. According to the state of California, the statute of limitations to bring charges for rape or sodomy or any kind of sexually motivated attack upon another person is 10 years. It has been 10 years since the 1970s. That was when the last time the law was updated. But then in 1990, in the 90s, the state legislature looked at the law again, and they decided that they would add a caveat to the statute, and it said that if there is a possible life sentence for the crime, or the crime has a motive of proving that there had been a pattern of behavior, and there are multiple victims, then there is no statute of limitations. And Danny Masterson's attorneys have fought hard that to to have these, the crimes, the felonies of rape and rape with intimidation thrown out, stating that there is no life sentence possible for these charges. And even if he is given the maximum, a 45-year sentence, he would be out in 22 years with good behavior, and that's not a life sentence. It doesn't qualify underneath the statute, but unfortunately for Danny Masterson and his attorney Tom Mesereau, who is a very well-known attorney in the state of California, the judge who's sitting on the bench didn't look at the statute and didn't read the statute, or if at the very least, he's not very well informed of what the actual statute says, and he went by what the interpretation is of the actual DA who filed these charges against Danny. If this thing goes forward, and it's right now we don't know if it is going to go forward because of COVID. Everything in the court systems has been pushed back farther and farther, that is out there right now. But if it does go forward, the likelihood is that the whole thing will be thrown out by the Court of Appeals in the state of California if he's convicted of anything at all. Now, Danny has always, put forth, his innocence and claimed his innocence in this case, and said that it basically, as always, claimed his innocence in this case, and said that this was a money grab by his former girlfriend and these 3 or 4 other women who, from his past 20 years ago, who in 20 years they could have filed civil suit at any point in time, but they didn't. They didn't file suit against anyone at all. Not the church, not Danny, not any other possible witnesses who, one lady says was there when the actual, assault happened. And all this, they never filed any civil suits at all. And they had the right to file civil suit at any point in time in the past 20 years. Until his ex-girlfriend came forward and filed civil suit, nobody filed anything at all against him. The allegations of sexual assault, and with, the motivation of intimidation, didn't go forward. So, what are the victims? The 3 cases that charges that are out there. What are each of the victims all saying? And I'm not blaming the victims, and I'm not saying that I don't believe the victims in this case, but each victim has the exact same story, almost verbatim. They all say that they went out on a date with Danny. They went to dinner. They went and had, did something earlier in the night, and then went back to Danny Masterson's home in the Beverly Hills area, and they had a drink. They may have had food. They listened to music. They may have, sat around and talking, but then started to feel ill. Now, it would be speculation to say so, but the speculation is that each of the victims feel like they were drugged. And 2 of the 3 where the charges are being moved forward said that, they were drugged. They started to feel ill. Danny said, "You can go lay down." And then they blacked out and they were sexually assaulted by Danny Masterson. One victim said that she didn't come to until she found Danny Masterson and her both naked in the shower, and Danny Masterson was sexually assaulting her in the shower. Another victim said that she came to laying in a bed and Danny was raping her. When she told him to stop, he pointed a gun at her and said, "Shut the F up." That's new. And it should be noted also, in the state of California, Danny Masterson has no firearms actually registered to him. He has never registered a firearm in his name in the state of California. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have one. It just means that he doesn't have one registered in the state of California. And the other victim said that she, woke up and, she asked what was going on and asked if she was coming to. And Danny, mentioned something to we're just having fun, we're just fooling around. And then she got dressed and left. The same victim who said that Danny pointed a gun at her, that there were multiple people in the room at the same time, and they were wandering around, pointing and laughing at her as Danny was, sexually assaulting her. And I'm sorry for the graphic details here, but I have to read what the actual victims themselves have said about this case. So, when did all this come about? Again, I said in 2017 is when his ex-girlfriend, filed a civil suit against him. Put it in context, 2017 is at the height of the Me movement in America. Me, and if you're not aware of what the Me movement is, I don't have the time right now to basically go through it all. But it's basically, a movement that started that said, look, what about me? What about my feelings? What about me? And canceling everybody who, disagreed with you, or people went after other people because they were more special than anybody else. That's the Me movement, boiled down to its pure context. There's more to it than that, and I'm not trying to, discourage the Me movement. It got carried away. It really did. And you have to, even those people who, started the Me movement and were at the head of the Me movement said, and have admitted, publicly that it got way out of control, and that it was never meant to go in the direction that it did. But also in 2017 is when Leanne Remy, and she came out as an ex-Scientologist and, started to talk about some of the things that happened within the church. And it's odd, but quickly, right after Leanne Remy came out and spoke publicly about her time within the Church of Scientology, each and every one of the victims who had filed civil suit along with his ex-girlfriend amended their actual civil suits, and their attorneys started talking about these things happened to them as well. In the Church of Scientology, from L. Ron Hubbard himself, the science fiction writer who thought up and basically invented Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard had a part in the actual doctrine itself that was called, an eye for an eye. And basically said that if somebody comes out and speaks ill of the Church of Scientology, someone needs to step up and take that person down. Go after that individual. If somebody comes and attacks somebody from the church or hurts them directly from the church, you need to have an eye for an eye. And these victims say, in their statements through their attorneys, that they were harassed, they were stalked, they were that people were taking photographs of them. One victim says that someone threw a rock through her daughter's bedroom window. Others say that they were chased in their cars by people who were members of the Church of Scientology. That the Church of Scientology acted in a way that was harassing in nature and stalking and bullying of them to try to get them to drop their claims against Danny Masterson. Is it true? I don't know. I don't have the answer to any of these questions, really. I'm just telling you about the case itself. But again, to end this up, because we've run such a long time here, is does the state of California have the right to actually file the actual charges of rape and a rape with intimidation against Danny Masterson? Because there is no life sentence in this case. The multiple victim clause that is in there is basically, it's not meant for the DA. It's meant to stop the DAs from doing what they call stacking the victims It's not like, oh, look, there were multiple victims, so now we have a life sentence case, and we can, there is no statute of limitation. That clause was put in there to stop DAs from saying, you know what, there's not enough evidence here. Let's wait, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever, and then bring the case forward once we have enough victims, or we have enough people who will come forward and say that they were the victim. It was meant to stop them from stacking victims. Not, there are multiple victims, now there's a life sentence, clause to this. Even if all three charges and he's found guilty of everything, even with the enhancement of intimidation and threats on this, again, he's looking at a maximum of 45 years in prison, out in 22, which is not a life sentence. And former members of the California State Supreme Court have all said publicly they're not sure what this bench judge is doing. Is he trying to make a name for himself in this case by denying that these charges should be thrown out? Because there is obviously there's a chance that he's going to be found guilty of the civil matter, and he's going to have to pay out to the victims and to his ex-girlfriend who she says he broke the actual promises, and he owes her actual compensation. But is there actual real criminal charges? I don't know. But this case is going to get more and more bizarre as it goes on. Before I end, I would like to thank the following people who helped in the research for this case, and who also came forward and explained to me what the role of the Church of Scientology has to do with the Danny Masterson case. A couple of these people who came forward, who I'm about to read off, are former members of the Church of Scientology of the Los Angeles area. Sarah James, Mike Tolbert, Allison Hawkins, and Janet Priest. You can find those who were former members. You can find their statements online if you look them up, and you really need to read about what they have to say about the Church of Scientology. They have all spoken with a local affiliate, those who are of those four. I'm not saying which ones are, but those who have were former members of the Church of Scientology have all spoken to local news affiliates, and their statements about the Church of Scientology are online. So, thank you everyone for joining me today. While we looked at the Danny Masterson and the charges against him. Where will it go from here? I don't know. But it's going to get crazy. You can bet anything like this that comes up that's high profile in California and in Hollywood, it's going to get crazy. Throw in Scientology and whoa, we got ourselves a heck of a barnstorm here and a fire going. Bye. Well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you'd give this a thumbs up. And let YouTube and the algorithm know that you enjoyed this content. If you have only watched one video and this is it, well, thank you for stopping by. But I have a whole channel of over 500 videos for on YouTube right now. Why don't you go check one out? Links down below. There's a next suggested video there. You can subscribe too. I wouldn't mind if you would do that.